She texted me at 3 a.m., crying. Said she'd been mugged. I drove 40 minutes, sat with her in urgent care, filled out the forms. When they asked who I was, she answered, "He's my emergency contact." Felt like a title. Like proof. 2 weeks later, she posted a beach photo, kissing the guy who really deserved that title. I used to think love was about showing up, being reliable, quietly holding space for someone while they figured things out. That's what I was to Zoe. The late-night driver. The shoulder during meltdowns. The guy who changed her light bulbs and fed her cat. She said we had a soul bond, not a label. Said her last breakup left her not ready for anything real. But the truth? She just hadn't finished waiting for someone else. I stayed, thinking I mattered. Then one phone call shattered that illusion. You tell me, after everything, was I wrong to walk away without a word? I was folding her laundry when I saw it. Zoe's Instagram story, 12 seconds of cocktails, flashing lights, and her giggling in someone's lap. The caption said, "Single life, soft launch." I blinked. Rewatched it. No mention of me. No photo of the night we spent just 3 days ago, when she said she wasn't ready for anyone else. Just her, Carmen, and some guy in a linen shirt with his hand on her thigh like it had always been there. My phone buzzed. A smiley face from her. No text. Just that yellow, smug little circle, like she was testing whether I'd play along. Whether I'd stay quiet. Again, I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. Not yet. Because I suddenly understood something she'd never said out loud. My place in her life wasn't public. It was functional. The guy in the story? He got the spotlight. I got the 2 a.m. "Can you bring soup?" texts. I got the favor list, the tearful calls, the "you're the only one I trust" speeches. But when it came to being seen, I was invisible by design. I folded the last shirt. The same one I wore when I drove her to her cousin's wedding. The one she insisted I shouldn't attend because it's just family. Right. Family and the ex she forgot to mention. That night, I told myself I was being supportive, patient, understanding. Now I'm wondering if I was just convenient. And the worst part? I wasn't even surprised. Somewhere deep down, I think I always knew. I was her safety net, not her choice. So I put the laundry down, turned my phone over, and let the silence answer her smiley. 2 days later, she brought it up, like I was the one who had made things weird. "I feel this shift in your energy," she said, stirring oat milk into her coffee like she was diagnosing a patient. "Is everything okay?" I said I'd seen her story, that it felt off. The caption, the guy. She blinked, like she'd forgotten the whole thing. Then laughed. "Oh my God, that? It was a joke. Carmen wrote that caption. You're reading into it." I didn't say anything right away. Just watched her twist the cap back on the oat milk like it had personally offended her. She kept going. "You know I'm not seeing anyone. I literally told you I'm not in a place for that." Right. Not seeing anyone. Just being photographed draped over someone new with a wink and a hashtag. When I stayed quiet, she tilted her head. "Wait, are you jealous?" I didn't know we were labeling things now. Her voice softened, like she was doing me a kindness. "It's okay to feel insecure. I just wish you'd trust me." That part stung. Not because she said it, but because part of me did want to believe it. I wanted to believe I was overreacting. That the guy was a cousin, or a friend, or maybe someone from her improv class. I wanted to believe that if I just stayed calm, she'd choose me eventually. For real, for good, out loud. But here's the thing about gaslighting. It doesn't hit like a slap. It seeps in. Like fog. Like doubt. By the time she kissed my cheek and called me her favorite human, I was already halfway convinced I'd imagined the whole thing. I left her place with that gross, hollow feeling. Like I'd eaten a meal that looked perfect but left me starving. The story was gone now, of course. Deleted. Vanished like it never existed. But the moment stayed. The shift. The sting. The aftertaste of knowing someone looked you in the eye and lied gently enough to make you thank them for it. I told myself to let it go. But a part of me had already started counting lies in lowercase. Carmen always liked me. Or at least, that's what she wanted me to think. She was Zoe's oldest friend, the kind who posts birthday tributes with baby photos and calls herself the Vault. When we first met, she gave me a long hug and said, "Finally, a stable guy." I took that as approval. Looking back, it was a warning. A week after the gaslight brunch, Carmen called me out of nowhere. Said she was checking in. I told her things felt tense. Off. She sighed like a sister, not a spy. "Look," she said, Zoe's complicated. But she cares about you, even if she's bad at showing it. She paused, then added, you're basically her emotional husband. She needs you. I remember smiling, not because it felt good, but because it felt like confirmation. Like all the quiet effort I'd put in mattered. She told me Zoe had a lot of healing to do, that maybe I should give her space and not take everything personally. I nodded along, took notes even, thought Carmen was on my side. 3 days later, Zoe posted a countdown timer. Bali in 6 days. I assumed it was a solo trip, a retreat, something she probably forgot to mention in one of her emotional resets. Then I saw Carmen comment, can't believe it's finally happening. You too deserve this. You too. I read it twice. 3 times. The vault had cracked wide open, and apparently, it had a beachfront view. Carmen wasn't a confidant. She was a concierge, making sure Zoe's transitions ran smoothly. I thought about the call, her timing, the way she gently pushed me to step back. She wasn't reassuring me. She was clearing the runway. And the worst part? She did it kindly, like she was doing me a favor. So I stopped replying. To her. To Zoe. To the version of myself that believed being needed was the same as being loved. Because when your biggest supporter hands you the blindfold, you don't ask questions. You take it off. She left her iPad on my couch. That's how it started. Zoe had come over the night before, said she needed grounding, then fell asleep in my hoodie while we watched some half-finished documentary about healing crystals. She left in a rush the next morning, hugged me tight, forgot her charger, her water bottle, and the iPad she used for journaling and mood boards. I wasn't going to look. I really wasn't. But when the screen lit up, flight confirmation, bold subject line, I froze. Subject, final itinerary, Bali escape, 2 guests. Names, Zoe Simmons and Evan Thorne. Evan, not a retreat, not solo, not healing, a vacation. I tapped once, just once. A photo album opened, pre-titled Bali 2023 2 Hearts. Already filled with 10 photos. Matching swimsuits laid out on a bed. A dinner reservation screenshot. A quote graphic. When the soul finds its mirror, the body follows. The earliest upload? 2 weeks ago. Right before she told me she wasn't ready to date. Right after she cried into my shirt saying, I don't want to lose you. I sat there staring at the screen, wondering how many moments had been repurposed. How many hugs were pre-guilt. How many tears were just staging. Evan. I didn't know him. Never heard the name. But clearly, he knew me. He knew I existed in the negative space. The man who made sure Zoe never had to feel alone until the plane took off. I didn't confront her. Not then. Not with evidence that raw. Instead, I charged the iPad. Plugged it in neatly by her bag. Didn't say a word when she texted later. Thank you for last night. I feel safe around you. Yeah, safe enough to lie. But something shifted. I stopped wondering if she was using me. I started asking how long. And the scariest part? I already knew the answer. It hit me while I was brushing my teeth, of all things. Mint foam, humming electric hum, late-night autopilot. Then the memory dropped like a trapdoor. New Year's Eve. She kissed me at midnight, clumsy and sweet, her eyes glassy from champagne and whatever playlist was looping in the background. Everyone else was pairing off, yelling Happy New Year, like it meant anything. She pulled me into the hallway, away from the noise, hands gripping my sleeves. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? I asked. She didn't answer at first, just stared at me like she was cataloging my face. Then finally, of being alone, of messing it up, of pushing away the only person who gets me. That night, I held her while she cried, told her I wasn't going anywhere, told her she didn't have to figure it all out right away, told her I'd wait, like an idiot reciting vows no one asked for. I remember thinking it was a turning point, that she'd finally seen me, not just as the fallback, but as the person she could build something with. But now I realized that was the moment she made peace with keeping me just close enough. That confession wasn't a crack in the wall. It was the wall. A plea for company without accountability. A signed contract that said, you'll stay, even when I don't. Suddenly, everything else clicked. The way she always asked what I was doing, but never how I was. The way she hugged me like a life raft, but only when the water was rough. The way she said, I don't want to lead you on, right after booking a 2-person villa in Bali. That hallway kiss. It wasn't a promise. It was a safety deposit. And I paid in patience. In silence. In pretending that needing someone was the same as choosing them. I rinsed my mouth, stared at the mirror, and said nothing. Because there was nothing left to argue with. She hadn't betrayed me that night. She'd been perfectly clear. I just didn't want to hear it. A week before BALI, she texted, "Come over tonight. I want to reconnect before I go offline." Offline. That's what she called it. Not vacation. Not trip. Just a noble digital detox for her healing journey. I almost didn't go. Almost made up a work excuse. But then I thought, fine. Let's see how she spins this. She'd gone all out. Candles lit, pasta simmering, the kind of low jazz playlist people use to make conversations sound deeper than they are. She even wore the hoodie I'd left at her place, the one she always claimed smelled like comfort. We ate. She laughed more than usual, kept her phone face down, like she was being present. Halfway through dessert, she reached for a little white envelope on the counter. "This is for emergencies," she said, sliding it across to me like a will being read. Inside, her spare keys, a list of pet care instructions, and a note that just said, "Thanks for always being my safe place." Safe place. Not partner. Not priority. Not even friend. Safe place. Like a storage unit for her panic. I asked when she was leaving. She said soon. Didn't give a date. Didn't mention who she was going with. Just that she'd check in if she could. The whole night felt pre-written. Like a scene she'd rehearsed. Little gratitude nuggets planted between courses, casual, "I'll miss yous," delivered with perfect spacing. It wasn't intimacy. It was PR. By the time I left, I realized what this was. She wasn't inviting me closer. She was handing me the baton. I'd watch her place. I'd feed her cat. I'd be the on-call lifeline, just like always. Only now, she had the paperwork to prove it. Walking home, envelope in my pocket, I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was the most official our relationship had ever been. And I didn't even get a title. Just a job description. She was gone less than 48 hours before the first post dropped. Sunset. Infinity pool. 2 wine glasses. 1 hammock. She didn't tag him, but he was in the reflection. Broad shoulders, long hair, that same linen shirt from the soft launch story. Caption, "Worth the wait." Comments poured in. Finally, "OMG, you guys look so good together." Even Carmen chimed in. "Told you the universe delivers." I stared at the screen for maybe 10 minutes. No caption about healing. No detox. No vague language to protect my feelings. Just a fully public, fully romantic debut. Staged like a tourism ad and posted like I didn't exist. And the worst part? Zoe's mom commented, "Love this for you, sweetie. You look so happy, 2 hearts." She'd sent me a thank you text just days before. "Thank you for looking after her. You're such a kind soul." Kind soul. I was starting to hate how people said that like a compliment. Like it made me easier to ignore. I didn't comment. Didn't text. Didn't delete the dozens of photos I still had of us. The ones no one else ever saw. Not because I was holding on, but because I wanted to remember exactly how much silence cost. Because when someone turns you into a secret, the shame sticks to you. You start wondering if maybe you really were just the warm-up act. I stared at that photo. Wine glasses, 10 limbs, glowing sky, and felt nothing. No rage. No heartbreak. Just this cold, quiet recognition. She wasn't hiding me to protect the relationship. She was hiding the relationship to protect herself. I was her pre-trip ritual. The emotional cleanse before the real vacation began. And now? Now I was just the guy holding her spare keys. Watching her life unfold like a trailer for a movie I'd been cut from. I didn't text. Didn't call. Didn't send some bitter paragraph about how humiliated I felt. Instead, I started reading the fine print. The lease? Still in my name. I'd helped her re-sign it 6 months ago when her credit was a mess. She never filed the update. The pet sitter app? Registered under my email. Her landlord? Had my number saved as the emergency contact. It hit me like a click in the brain. She'd built a life where I handled everything. Bills, backups, the boring stuff. So she could live like nothing had consequences. That envelope she gave me? It wasn't trust. It was outsourcing. So I took the keys. Drove to her apartment. Changed the locks. Didn't trash anything. Didn't touch her stuff. Just replaced the cylinder. Left her mail on the floor and slid one single note under the door. Your emergency contact has clocked out. Then I canceled the pet sitter appointment. Deleted the calendar reminders I'd made for her plant watering schedule. Turned off notifications from her shared grocery list. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it with the same precision I'd used to keep her life together. Only now, it was mine I was keeping intact. She hadn't messaged yet. Probably wouldn't until the cat food ran out or her door key stopped working. And even then, she'd assume it was some glitch. That I'd fix it. That I'd apologize. But the silence I left her with wasn't confusion. It was clarity. Because once you stop explaining yourself, people finally have to sit in the space where your presence used to be. And for the first time since I met her, I was okay not filling it. 3 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. Didn't answer. Voicemail popped up. Hi, this is Mark. I'm Zoe's Airbnb host. She said you were her emergency contact? There's been a small issue with the check-in. I guess she gave me the wrong access code. I listened twice. Not because I was confused, but because I couldn't believe how far her autopilot reached. Even abroad, I was still the cleanup crew. I texted back once. Simple. Direct. Sorry, I'm no longer handling anything on Zoe's behalf. Best of luck. No salutation. No emoji. Just a handoff. A final invoice stamped. You're on your own now. I don't know if she saw the message right away, or if the host had to explain it to her. But an hour later, a new number texted me. Spanish country code. Why are you doing this? Then, I thought you cared. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the keyboard. Not out of hesitation, but because the perfect reply had already written itself months ago. I didn't send it. Didn't know her poetry. I just blocked the number. Because here's the truth. I did care. Deeply. Repeatedly. I cared enough to show up when no one else did. To clean up. To listen. To give her the benefit of the doubt. Long after it stopped making sense. But caring becomes damage when it's one-sided. When your role in someone's life is to absorb blame, deflect consequences, and call it love. That wasn't care. That was captivity. And letting go? That wasn't revenge. It was self-respect with a door lock. She came back a week later. I didn't know until I heard her keys scrape uselessly against the new lock. A pause. Then a knock. Not urgent, just confused. I didn't answer. Watched through the peephole as she stood there in airport sweatpants, sunglasses pushed up in her hair, a duffel bag slung over one shoulder. She looked like someone expecting a ride that never showed up. She tried calling once. Then again. I watched the screen light up with her name, still saved as Z Hot Beverage from the early days, when coffee dates felt like something real. Didn't pick up. Later that night, I found an envelope slid under the door. Her handwriting. Sloppy like always. Inside was a letter, rambling, defensive, full of spiritual jargon and half apologies. No real ownership. Just lines like, I'm sorry if you felt hurt, and you were always my foundation. Foundations don't get flown to Bali. I didn't respond. Didn't tear it up either. Just placed it back in the envelope and dropped it in her mailbox. That was it. No closure. No last conversation. Just the sound of me not picking up. Weeks passed. She posted less. The vacation glow faded. I saw a quote on her story one night. One of those vague, pastel ones. Sometimes the soul has to lose everything to find its truth. Right. Except I hadn't lost anything. I'd given it up. On purpose. Because the truth wasn't hiding. It was printed on a boarding pass I wasn't on. Typed in a calendar I wasn't invited to. Spoken in every moment where I showed up, and she didn't. I kept the new lock. Kept the silence. Kept the space I never realized I needed. And sometimes, when I pass her old mug in my cabinet, I wonder, did she ever realize I stopped showing up? Or did she just assume someone else stepped in? Either way, you tell me. If someone only loves you between boyfriends, was it ever love at all?